Seeing Claire so determined, the old Mrs. Wilson hated Charlie in her heart. She had done so much work and acted in so many plays, but Charlie was not confused by a word. This is D***MN it. She hurriedly played the bitter trick again, crying, and said, "Claire, do you hate Grandma so much? Go home to live and come back to work. Our family strives to create a new situation and a new height. This is not perfect. Is it the situation? Why do you have to guard your own studio?" After speaking, she wiped her tears and asked, "Aren't you willing to forgive Grandma now?" Claire said seriously, "Grandma, this matter has nothing to do with forgiveness or not forgiveness. It's just that I understand one thing now. Sending someone under the fence is not the answer. The best way is to have a world of your own, even if it's just an eave that can shelter from the wind and rain, and it's much better than sending someone under a fence. Therefore, I chose to start my own business instead of returning to the Wilson Group." Jacob and Elaine comforted one after another. "Claire, why are you still so stubborn? How nice to go back. Much better than your own business." Claire said without hesitation, "Dad and Mom, this is my own personal decision. Don't say it anymore. You can't change my attention." Mrs. Wilson knew that victory or defeat was in one fell swoop. If Claire was unwilling to go back, it would be useless to talk about Jacob and Elaine as cumbersome and rubbish. Therefore, she could only grit her teeth secretly and at the same time used her own assassin. She walked to Claire tremblingly, and knelt directly in front of her with a plop. Everyone in the house was stunned. Who would have thought that the old Mrs. Wilson, who has always been aloof and arrogant, would kneel down for Claire? This is really subverting their three views too. Even Noah Wilson didn't expect that his mother would be so willing to pay for it to deceive Claire when they went back. She wants to be strong all her life, and she wants to control others and let others kneel to her. When did she kneel to others? Claire was also caught off guard, and said hurriedly, "Grandma, what are you doing? Please get up and say something." Old Mrs. Wilson knelt in front of her and said apologetically, "Claire, it was Grandma's fault before. Grandma apologizes to you. Just forgive Grandma and come back to Wilson's house to help. Wilson's family can't live without you. If not, the Wilson family is really over. Grandma begs you, come back." At this moment, Mrs. Wilson's attitude towards Claire has changed drastically. She no longer has the arrogance and reliance on the face to sell her terms. It is just endless regrets and pleadings. The current Wilson family is already in danger. She feels that even if she kneels down and begs, she must beg Claire back to the Wilson family. Otherwise, the huge family business will really be ruined in her own hands. When Noah Wilson saw the old Mrs. Wilson, he knelt down and begged along with her. His expression changed, and he took Harold and Wendy, followed by kneeling to the ground, begging Claire. Seeing such a scene, Claire suddenly felt a little at a loss. She never expected that the old Mrs. Wilson, who regarded her face as more important than her own life, could kneel down and apologize to her in front of so many people. It seems that the Wilson family nowadays is really exhausted. Seeing that Claire was still indifferent, the Lady Wilson was still in tears, begging to say, "Claire, you can have pity for your poor grandma. Wilson family can't live without you, please come back." After she finished speaking, she knelt on the ground and knocked directly at Claire 3 times, unspeakably miserable, as if she was about to kneel to death on the spot. "I knew so, why bother?" At this time, Charlie walked up to the old Mrs. Wilson and said coldly, "Grandma, thank you very much for coming to visit my father-in-law, but it is impossible for us to return to the Wilson Group." With that said, he issued an eviction order and said, "Please leave now." The old Mrs. Wilson couldn't stop the tears, and said angrily, "Charlie, when you had nothing to join my Wilson family, we gave you food, drink, clothing, and housing, didn't you have it? Can you be a little grateful? At this time, do you still want to split our Wilson family? Charlie smiled faintly and said, I'm sorry, Grandma, the one who feeds me is Claire and my father-in-law and mother-in-law. You have not given me anything except mocking me and calling me waste. Why should I be grateful? After that, Charlie's face turned dark, and he coldly snorted. Don't think I don't know what your plan is. You want to trick Claire back with bitter tricks, let Claire help the Wilson Group to cooperate, and revitalize the Wilson Group. Am I wrong? Mrs. Wilson's true motive was suddenly exposed by Charlie, and her whole person was a little flustered. She thought that she would be able to kill Claire's family with 4 bites, especially Charlie's waist. It was not difficult. Just ask Harold and Wendy to apologize to him and treat him as a special person, he would be grateful. However, she did not expect that Charlie was the one who was drunk and alone. Seeing that her motive was seen through, Mrs. Wilson hesitated and said, It's all a family, and it's all in one place. If a family opens 2 companies, it's also a joke to spread it out?